So this is the statement. So after the statement, he selected monohybrid cross. Monohybrid cross to prove the first law. Already I have given the definition for monohybrid cross. The process of crossing between two plants having one trait. So he is going to study how one trait is being transferred from parents to offspring. Are you getting my point? So here he had taken height as his trait. Height of a plant. Which cross he selected to prove the first law of inheritance? Monohybrid cross. What is its definition? The process of crossing between two plants having one trait. So what is that one trait he selected to prove the first law? That is height. Height is the trait that is selected by the Mendel to prove first law of inheritance or law of segregation. So next he started giving mathematical representation to the experiment what he was concluded. Parental cross. Among them the first step is what? Parental cross. So in that parental phenotype. So what type of plants he had selected for conducting this experiment? Among the two parents, one parental plant is taller, the other one is dwarf. So tall and the other one is what? Dwarf. This is the parental phenotype. Are you getting my point? If we know the phenotype, we can write the genotype. So what is the parental genotype here? Tall, pure tall plant and pure dwarf plant. So capital T. For the pure dwarf plant, small t. So among these two, at the time of fertilization, first they divide as their gametes, right? Because this gene has developed because of the contribution of two parents. Am I right or not? So it will be dividing now as capital T, separation of gametes. And it will be dividing as small t. So gametes are ready now. Next one, fertilization. Next one is what? Fertilization. As we all know that fertilization means what? Fusion of male and female gametes. Already I have told that among them one is the tall plant is the male parent, we have to assume, and the dwarf parent is the female plant. So the process of fusion of male and female gametes. Capital T is the male gamete which is contributed by the male tall plant. Small t is the female gamete which is contributed by dwarf female plant. So fusion of male and female gametes. What happens as a resultant? Capital T, small t. Again, capital T, small t. Male gametes, fusion of male and female gametes. Capital T, small t. Capital T, small t. So when the male gametes fuse with female gametes and two parents are being crossed, the formed progeny is called as what? F1 generation. So this is called as what? F1 generation. Are you getting my point? So capital T small t, capital T small t, capital T small t, capital T small t. This is the genotype. That means even if it has a recessive gene, even if it has an alternate gene, what happens? It is being suppressed by the dominant one. So in the F1 generation, all the plants in the F1 generation, all the plants have been grown taller. Are you getting my point? So in the F1 generation, all the plants grown taller. So he got a doubt here. There is a dwarf parent. Where is the gene contributed by the dwarf parent? Even though one of the parent is short, in the F1 generation all have grown taller. How is it possible? That was his doubt. Are you getting my point? So he continued the experiment. Are you getting my point? So in the F1 generation, all the plants grown taller. Now he started to continue the experiment through F1 cross. Already I have told you F1 cross means the process of crossing between F1 progeny. Crossing between what? F1 progeny. Now look at here. What is the F1 phenotype? He has to select two plants here, no? Among them what? Both have grown taller, right? And F1 genotype. We know the genotype. What are they? Capital T, small t, capital T, small t. Even though it is growing taller, but its genetical arrangement would be capital T, small t. Now they have been separated as gametes. So capital T, small t. Here also capital T, small t. Next step is what? Fertilization. Fusion of male and female gametes. Capital T, capital T, capital T, small t. Always we have to write the dominant first. Capital T, small t, small t, small t. So in the F1 generation, when he started F1 cross, after finishing F1 generation, we call it as what? The processor, the progeny which is formed by crossing F1 progeny is known as what? F2 generation. So in the F2 generation, he found the missing trait in the F1 generation. Are you getting my point? The trait which he had been thought it was missed in the F1 generation. What is it? Dwarfness. Reappeared again in the F2 generation. That means the trait is also present in the F1 generation, but it was suppressed by the dominant gene, that is tall. Because the tallness is suppressing the dwarf one, are you getting my point? He decided tall is the dominant trait and dwarf is the recessive trait. So after doing this experiment, he concluded that tall is the dominant. That's why this law is also called as law of dominance. Are you getting my point? So look at here. Now the genotypes of F2 generations we know. Tell me now the phenotypes. Tall, 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 and the last one, dwarf. So in the F2 generation also, 3 tall plants were there and only 1 dwarf. So whatever trait is number of times repeating in each generation, we can call it as also a dominant gene. So what is the ratio of monohybrid cross, or what is the ratio of F1 law? You may have a chance of asking a question by the board. What is the ratio of monohybrid cross? If they ask what is the ratio of monohybrid cross, your answer must be 3:1, because 3 tall plants and only 1 dwarf plant was formed after the completion of the experiment. Sometimes they may divide the question and ask you like this. What is the phenotypic ratio of monohybrid cross? What do you mean by the word phenotypic ratio of monohybrid cross? Phenotype means the trait which is visible to our eyes. So how many tall plants are we able to see here? 3 tall plants which are clearly visible to our eyes. So the phenotypic ratio of monohybrid cross is 3:1. Sometimes they may ask you what is the genotypic ratio of monohybrid cross. Are you getting my point? Genotype in the sense, if you clearly observe, though these 3 are taller, they are looking tall for our eyes, but their gene arrangement is different. So here one pure tall, that is 1:2. Here these 2 genotypes are same, that's why 2:2. And this is one type of genotype, 1. So 1:2:1 is the genotypic ratio of monohybrid cross. 3:1 is the phenotypic ratio of monohybrid cross. Are you getting my point? So like this, he derived first law of inheritance after conducting this experiment number of times. Many times he conducted the experiment and the same result he observed, and he derived that law, and at last he has given a conclusion. For any law there would be a conclusion, no? So what is the conclusion drawn by Mendel after finishing the experiment? Conclusion is gene is the unit of inheritance. Gene is the unit of inheritance is the conclusion given by Mendel. Are you getting my point? So he conducted all these experiments and he derived this law, and he proved that the traits of an organism are decided by the internal factors that work in pairs, and those internal factors nowadays we are calling them as genes. So when the board asks you to explain the first law of inheritance, you have to write the whole process which I have explained in this sequence. First you have to write the statement, next which cross involved in it, next parental cross, next F1 cross, and at last you have to conclude the law with a conclusion.